Happy first day of training camp, Chargers fans. Practices were today. I guess it's technically day 2. There's a ton of Chargers news that we're going to have to get to. Plus, we're going to talk about Vita Vea and if it's likely that he'll end up in Los Angeles. Chargers Now is presented by Prize Picks. I'm your host, Will Ortner. We're going to start on today's show discussing Vita Vea because his trade rumors, they're getting more and more loud. Plus, we're going to get into what that first day of training camp was like for the Los Angeles Chargers. You'd be shocked at how well a couple of the guys performed. A lot of good news, one bad news story around Tuli, although I would say that maybe it's not as bad as some Charger fans might think. We're on the road to 6K. We got to 5K, and immediately Charger fans said, let's sign up. Let's get more people aboard this train. So make sure that you keep hitting that subscribe button, sharing the videos with your friends. We're going to have you covered on the latest and greatest Chargers news all off-season long. So come on in, hit that sub button so you never miss any of the content that we have here on the channel. Jeremy Fowler put out an article yesterday that discussed where the best fit was for Vita Vea. Now, of course, we had a ton of fun covering the Vita Vea trade possibilities yesterday, but to see a true blue ESPN reporter come in and say that there was a good shot that the Chargers could end up actually landing Vea, well, that makes me feel pretty darn excited. Now, the teams that end up getting discussed for where Vita Vea could fit, it is important to notice that there were 5 teams. And 3 of them end up on the West Coast, which is where he said he wanted to be, but a couple of them still end up on the East Coast. Now, the Los Angeles Chargers topped that list, at least according to me, although Fowler had the Las Vegas Raiders a little bit higher. The 49ers as well. Obviously, the Bay Area is where Vea was originally from. New England Patriots, which would be an interesting move because they certainly have some interior defensive linemen already on this team that would fit this team in a good spot. And then the Carolina Panthers were thrown in there as well. I have a hard time seeing the Carolina Panthers going in and making this trade because, well, Tampa Bay is in the same division as them. Why would you help a division rival get better? That I certainly don't understand. Fowler had this to say on why a trade for Vea would make a lot of sense for the Los Angeles Chargers, and I certainly think that this makes a lot of sense to me. The Chargers have more than $40 million in cap space while starting nose tackle Dalvin Tomlinson is capable. He is not Vea. Pairing Vea with Tier Tart along with their 3-4 front with Tuli Tuipulotu and Khalil Mack rushing off the edge and Derwin James patrolling the secondary sounds like a winning formula for new defensive coordinator Chris O'Leary, who replaces now Baltimore Ravens head coach Jesse Minter. Will the Chargers make a trade for Vita Vea? Let us know down below in the comment section. Now, Vea did not practice today. He was sitting out with an injury. At least that's what they're saying. So I'm going to ask you to predict it down below in our comment section. Is General Manager Joe Ortiz going to make the move and make a big-time trade for this team? ESPN seems to think that this is something that will not happen because Ortiz has made it very clear that he wants to build his team through the draft. And that makes a lot of sense. And I think he's actually built a really good roster through the draft. Ortiz had an excellent 2026 NFL draft. And he's brought in a lot of quality players. Now, it's also important to remember with Ortiz that he's only had a handful of drafts, so that is something to pay attention to as well. I personally think that if a trade is able to happen, Ortiz will pull the trigger on this one and make it a reality. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed, but we'll see how much interest they show. For the next part of this show, we're going to be diving into the latest and greatest training camp news because there were a lot of big updates to be had. Tuli Tuipulotu did not practice. What does that mean? Justin Herbert, how'd he look throwing the football? And did anyone else come in and impress for the Los Angeles Chargers? Before we get into any of that, though, I need to let you know that today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 sports picks app and is the best place to win cash while watching sports. With the football season right around the corner, there's no better time to cash in with our friends at Prize Picks. And I'll tell you this, the app is really easy to use. For player picks, just pick more or less on a few players' stats and lock in your lineup. That's it. Prize Picks is available in most states, including California, Texas, and Florida. One thing I love is the new social feeds feature where you can share Prize Picks with your friends and copy lineups with a single click. You can actually follow me on the app at BigWill7774 to see all of my lineups. I have a lineup for the football action going on later on this year. Justin Herbert, more on his pass yards. Quentin Johnston, more on his receiving TDs. Rashid Shaheed, more on his receiving yards. New user offer. Best of all, play your first $5 and get $150 in lineups if you win. Just use code HMA when you sign up. That's right. PrizePicks just switched up their offer, so there's no better time to join. Lock in and win that first lineup. That's code HMA at sign up to get $150 in bonus lineups if you win your first $5 plus lineup. When you look at the big takeaways from day one, I got 5 of those for you on the show. Now, the first big one is that everyone is healthy. At least that is according to head coach Jim Harbaugh. This Chargers team last year was probably the most injured team in the National Football League. So this crew being able to stay healthy is going to be very important. There were questions about what players were going to be ready to go. We learned yesterday, obviously, that Ladd McConkey, Joe Alt, they were going to be good. They'd be able to play the entire camp. Harbaugh reiterates that when he went up and spoke today to the media. Chris Rim obviously puts out great content over at ESPN covering the Chargers. He basically showed that Harbaugh was saying everyone was healthy, everyone was going to be able to go out and play on this team. Everyone had passed their physicals. That didn't mean that everyone was going to start camp and be 100%. There might be a ramp up for some of the players to make sure that they're 100% ready to play for this football team. But to have both of these Chargers tackles back, Rashawn Slater, Joe Alt at 100%, that is a big thing, and it shows just how good this team can be. Charger fans should rejoice. Injuries were a big issue last year. No longer should that be the case for the 2026 Chargers. There's a chance that injuries are going to pop up, but right now everyone is healthy. No Tuli Tuipulotu. He did not end up going out on the field and playing for the Los Angeles Chargers today. Now, he was in practice. He was at camp, but he was off on the side doing workouts by himself. Now, why was Tuli doing this? Well, of course, he's in the middle of that contract negotiation. He wants an extension. I understand what he's doing here. He's trying to make sure that he doesn't get hurt potentially before that type of extension can come in. Now, there are some people that are a little bit worried. Rashawn Slater did the same thing last year, and then when he did start playing, well, he got hurt pretty quickly. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed and say that that was a one-off. That was a situation that will not hopefully happen here with Tuli, but it is certainly something that we do need to be paying attention to. What'll be interesting, the more and more that you look at what Tuli is doing and the more and more that we look at him as a player, it is clear that he has been very, very successful in his career, and that is just the beginning of what he can be. Derwin James was saying that he thinks he's going to be a double-digit sack guy this year. I really am fired up about that. I'm not going to worry about Tuli. I think that a contract is going to come, and I think it's going to come rather quickly. This is what this time of the year is for, contract extensions to get signed. The deal will get done. It's only a matter of time. I believe that Chargers fans should not worry about Tuli's contract negotiations. Let me know down below in our comment section. Do you agree or disagree with this sentiment? We're going to talk about the newly engaged Justin Herbert because he was out on the field today. Now, he's going to have some days where he's throwing the football a lot. He's also going to have some days where he is not throwing the football nearly as much. Chris Rim gave us a recap of what Justin Herbert was doing. Looks like some of the new footwork was helping him with his accuracy as well as his ability to find open wide receivers. Was very impressed with everything that he was able to do. We also know that there are some battles going on right now for that left guard spot. Seemed to be like Herbert was very comfortable with Coyote Oshika, but it's also very early. Remember, no one has pads on yet. So there wasn't quite as much banging as might normally be. I think that this is very important, and it's a good thing to hear. Justin Herbert spent all offseason working on technique and working on fixing some of his throwing the football issues. It's nice to know that it looks good so far. Still got to keep pushing there. DJU looked pretty good. Now, I told you that he was listed as someone who could be a potential sleeper for this team. And when you look at the quarterback depth chart for the Los Angeles Chargers, there is a clear competition there for that position. What will be interesting is he going to be able to completely beat out Trey Lance? Now, both DJU and Lance had some good throws. They had some not so good throws. So it'll be interesting to see who ends up taking the reins on that quarterback 2 spot. But to me, this is going to be a fun battle that we should keep our eyes on. And this is certainly something that we do not want to miss. Lastly, I want to give some hype to a rookie who had an absolute baller of a play. Brenen Thompson, obviously the new speedy wide receiver out of Mississippi State. There were questions on what he was going to look like in this offense. Well, on day one, he was going out and absolutely making a baller play. Now, unfortunately for Thompson, we can't show the video here that the Chargers posted on their Twitter. So you're just going to have to go with a trust me, bro, on this one. It is sweet. Go to their Twitter account right now. After this video is done, of course, and then go check out the catch that he made. The kid's a beast. It was an awesome sliding catch, gets underneath a great ball from Herbert. I think that Thompson's going to do a lot of very impressive things with this Chargers team. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. We're going to have a ton of content out for you every single day that you do not want to miss, covering your favorite team in the National Football League. Thank you guys so much for viewing today's video. I cannot wait to see you next time. And as always, and in the words of the great head coach Jim Harbaugh, bolt the freak up.